This video covers how to teach Chapter 7 of our Management for Church Leaders Volume Number 2 training. This chapter is entitled Managing Small Groups. The purpose of this chapter is to provide insight into the benefits of having small groups and the keys to managing them effectively. Again, this chapter should take about an hour to teach, and remember to leave time at the end for the exercise. The key points in this chapter are small groups help develop disciples. Second, small groups help distribute ministry to more people. And third, small groups help produce ministry leaders. Again, some notes here. Stress the importance of having good chemistry within a small group. Many small groups fail because the people don't really work well together. Secondly, emphasize the need for church oversight and management of all small groups. Like the other chapters, this chapter begins with a scripture, and then there's an opening paragraph that you can either read or paraphrase that really outlines what's going to be talked about in this particular chapter. I suggest you open up this training by asking the participants how many of them are in a small groups and how many small groups they might be in their church. For example, for myself, I'm in several small groups at my church, including a Bible study group, the praise band. I'm in that as a small group. I'm on our board of elders. It's another small group. So get people to talk about the various small groups that they're involved in their church as a way to get into this chapter. First thing we talk about in this chapter is the importance of small groups, and we list 5 reasons why small groups are important in the church. And we also indicate that they are also a key tool for discipleship, because discipleship often happens in small groups. At the end of this section, you can also ask another large group question as to what types of small groups are being used in the churches that they're in. The next section is on the principles of small groups. So we talk about 4 key elements to 4 key principles for small groups. One is you need to limit the size. Small groups should be small. We usually say something less than 12. Number 2, you designate and train small group leaders. And you can unpack this. Training is very important. Don't have a small group with an ineffective leader. Third, make sure the purpose of that small group is defined, because many times small groups go off in different directions if they don't really have a good focus and purpose for why they're meeting. And fourth, chemistry of the group matters. People need to be able to work together and get along, and they all have to be focused on the same purpose. So these are some key things to keep in mind, and you might mention what happens when small groups kind of fail. That's another reason why you want to talk about these principles of small groups and why they're important. The next thing the trainer manual talks about is having them break up into some small groups and talk about the strengths and weaknesses of small groups, so they can talk about some of the things that work well and some things that don't work well from their experience, and then they can share them with the group as a whole. The final section in this chapter is on how to manage small groups. We give some principles there, some things that you need to do as far as holding people accountable, keeping track of group members, having regular meetings, encouraging people to participate in small groups if they're currently not in one. This will help build up your church body and help people get to know one another and get to be effectively work well together and grow in faith together. Finally, we have a question at the end here, which has come up in some of the training I've done, and that it's a question that you can throw out to the group or have them discuss in small groups and share with a large group is, should churches require or not require small group participation? Some churches require it and they make every member part of a small group. Others make it voluntary. You can discuss the pros and cons of this and what the people feel. There's not necessarily one right answer, but this will really generate a very good discussion. Finally, there's an exercise at the end of this chapter called Managing Small Groups. And this is just an opportunity to list the small groups in your church, to maybe list some potential small groups, and list some things that you do well and maybe don't do well as it pertains to small groups. Thank you for watching this video on how to teach managing small groups from our Management for Church Leaders Volume Number 2 training.